Hi, I'm Ron.
And I'm Don.
And this is the Ron and Don Show. Thank you for joining us today. Our topic today is water. Love it or hate it.
Water is probably our biggest use commodity that we bring into the restaurant. Many hundreds of gallons are used every day in every restaurant. And we need it, we have to have it, but it is also the thing that is most abused, improperly used, and causes enormous damage and problems for us, either that we caused or that it just naturally does when we have water in our restaurants. And as a matter of fact, when we talk about water, we're talking about water and disposal of water. And for a gallon of water, you're going to pay so much, a few cents for a gallon of water. A third to half of that cost is for the disposal of it. So you not only have to pay coming in, you have to pay for it on the way back out again. The water from the rain comes down, washes our buildings and our parking lots, and adds to the creation of flowing our mulch off of our landscaping if it comes down too hard onto our sidewalks, and then helps create potholes in our parking lot.
Rain and snow collect on our roof. Oftentimes that collected rain and snow can drip through the roof membrane, saturating our insulation, rusting our bar joists, and ultimately dripping on our guests. Injected with CO2, water is also used to create beverages in our restaurants. Add to those beverages a little bit of fruit, and that same water will now all of a sudden start deteriorating our grout.
Yeah, and it'll also eat up our pipes.
And eat up our cast iron pipes.
Yeah, have you ever seen one of those things?
Yeah, indeed.
Looks like this. The whole bottom will be missing. Anyway, you got problems with high humidity in the summertime, and the air conditioning is sucking all that water out of the air to make our guests comfortable and all that kind of stuff. But if we haven't quite cleaned our air conditioning systems as frequently and used mold and fungus inhibitors in them, we get Legionnaire's disease. That was very bad stuff. And it's not something we really want. We use vast quantities of water to clean our floors and our equipment and stuff, but that leaves a residue of soap on the floor or whatever, the sanitizers from the sanitizing solutions out of dish machines or whatever, which is very slippery. So we use vast quantities again to wash all that stuff away off the floor. And that's all wasted. Again, we have to pay to get rid of it.
We send some of that same water into our ice machines to make ice. Of course, that same ice machine also is a very wet environment, and we can have mold and mildew build up if we're not careful and service the ice equipment regularly.
That cold water that went down into the grease trap, well, there's a lot of water that goes into that grease trap. If it goes in there too fast, it flushes the grease right out of that grease trap, especially if it's hot water. But then we need lots of water going down the sewer system to flush away all the wastes and the solids and all the bad water that we generate in the restaurant. So we need high flow, but high flow in the wrong place, especially hot, is bad. Good, bad.
We take some more of that water, we heat it up, and we send it into our equipment. If the total dissolved solids inside that heated up water are too great, then we start coating the inside of the equipment, clogging up baffles and orifices, and the next thing you know, our equipment's not working properly.
Some restaurants use hoses and high pressure sprayers to clean up. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It makes the job a little faster and easier, cuts down labor, but at the same time, it can dig out grout and do all kinds of damage to the floor and bounce up into equipment and make electric boards fry and cause all kinds of problems that we really don't want. So again, yin and yang.
Well, and let's go one step further. As long as we have that hose out, we're squirting all the floors and walls in the back of the house. We're also sending a lot of that water inside those walls. Once that water gets inside those walls, it can cause deterioration, it can cause mold and mildew to grow, and it frankly can cause harborage for pests.
We leave a little bit of that water on the floor in the dish area or in the bar where there's lots of liquors and mixes and stuff, and we got a wonderful place overnight for small flies to bring up new children and generations.
Don, we use a lot of that same water to boil our recipes and to clean our dishes. And when we do that, some steam is created. If we don't capture that steam in our hood systems, we end up with a rusty grid, and we end up, frankly, with an undesirable work environment.
We talked about ice machines a few minutes ago, and we use a lot of ice. We use a lot of water to make ice. 1 cube of ice on the floor, and you have a slip and fall that'll cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Good stuff, bad stuff.
You know, the flip side of all of this is when we take water away, we often get in trouble too. I think of a warm winter day and the extraction of water from the elements of a chair rail. If a chair rail loses its water, the joints begin to loosen up, and before you know it, you've got a chair that was safe in the warm, humid summer environment that may be unsafe in a dry winter environment.
Well, I mean, I can't, with my bulk, sit on that chair.
I will leave that to you to figure out.
A dripping faucet can waste 10 gallons of water in a shift. We've already talked about that. But you also have all that gas and electricity that went into heating that water, because it's normally a hot water, because that's how it works. The gaskets in the hot water side generally go before on the cold water side. And we turn on hot water more frequently than we turn on cold water. So we lose 10 gallons just in that little bit of time.
Similar to what we talked about earlier too, with the coffee and tea brewers, if you don't filter that water before it's heated in those pieces of equipment, the total dissolved solids, if too high, can create buildups, slime, calcium on the inside of those units, and they will no longer work as efficiently as they once did.
We're using that same water, which may have the total dissolved solids, or we often call it hardness, but it's much more than that in total dissolved solids. And it's got odors and flavors and lots of things in it that are not really all that wonderful when we're using it to rehydrate things that came in as a desiccant, or if it came in as a concentrate, like beverages, sodas, and also we're making tea and coffee out of it. So we have to filter it, which is an added cost. And in the filtration process, in some filtration processes, which are extreme, we may use 1 gallon of water waste for every 3 or 4 or 5 gallons of water we put through a reverse osmosis system. But in any way, we have to replace filters regularly so that we don't have a bad product going out to our guests.
I'm Ron.
And I'm Don.
This is the Ron and Don Show. Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe.